Hello, fight fans. Time for another episode of the Beefy Boys Breakdown. And this week it's episode 93. We're going over UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot. Definition of a sleeper card, but some good fights, plenty to talk about. Some interesting decisions, as always, seems to be the trend of 2022. Interesting decisions. And before that, been happening since the beginning of the sport, 1993. Here's Harrison right now.
What up?
What is up, my brother, man? It's episode 93. We're going over you. Pump for this one.
Pump for this one. My chair's
You're
on.
good, man. Yeah, we're going over UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Gamrot. Definition of a sleeper card. Definition of one for the hardcores. You know what I'm saying? By no coincidence, put before the biggest card of the year. So, like, anybody that does complain can just shut the hell up and wait a week. But yeah, this is one of those cards that slip in on you, huh?
Yeah, just slipping right on in. One of the things I found really crazy with this card, though, man, the longer we got into it, the more they touched on the point, because they did hammer it home from the broadcast booth, was so many young prospects on this card specifically. There's 4 or 5 under the age of 27 that are going to do things in the UFC.
Very well. That's pretty much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. On paper right now, these are names you don't know. Great example is my buddy Sean. Shout out to him. He watched our show. He'll talk to me about the things we say. So I know he actually watches. Awesome, right? In-depth watching. Yeah, for real. But he loves fighting. He's one of those dudes that loves jiu-jitsu. I think he's done it for a little bit, and just kind of his forte of sport, right? But he messaged me at 3 a.m. Saturday night, watching the replay, and was like, "This main event is actually insane. Who are these guys?" And it's that justifies the idea of both the guys in the main event they're top 10 155ers. They're both ranked outside the top 10 before the fight. After the fight, I'm sure obviously one of them will go into the top 10, it would seem.
Sky's the limit for both guys. We can go ahead and just say it.
Yeah, and at 155.
Yeah,
a very old division.
Right? For years and years, 155 was the glamour division. It was the new light heavyweight. Light heavyweight used to be the glamour, division when we were.
It's a great example. It's a great example. Great example.
All sports goes in cycles. There'll be years where it was all great running backs or all great big men, or
Well, look at the Avalanche taking over from the Lightning this year. Lightning won the last 2 cups, got to the finals again this year. Looked like they maybe had a shot, and the Lightning are this young team that's just been rebuilt by players that used to be on the Avalanche. So Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, if you're an Avalanche fan, those are legends for their team. Now they're the team president and coach. So it's they rebuilt the squad through tanking, which normally doesn't work in hockey. It did work for them. They have this kid that's 23, Cale Makar, he's won 5 individual awards in the NHL in the last 2 years. People are calling him the next Bobby Orr, which is
that's sick.
Top 3 players all time.
One of those things. I know before I die, one of these days I'm gonna get into it and learn more about it. I love going to games. I went to a couple of Sharks games when I was in San Jose. It's a great sport. I don't have anything negative to say about it. It's just I just haven't taken the time to really dive into it and really learn the ins and outs and learn what I'm watching. I enjoy hockey on the most casual of levels, which it's cool. That's how everybody gets their introductions into sports,
right?
But yeah,
I think MMA experienced that this last year, right? And their growth percentages. Someone was talking to me about this as well. UFC's growth percentage over COVID was 4 times as much as any other sport that was already happening or even began during COVID. Yeah. Right, yeah, exactly. So Dana White continuing to do that and doing all the things he had to do to get past COVID, the testing, the protocols, all that stuff, clearly worth it. Clearly grew the brand,
man.
massively.
I guess we can dive right in because I got a hot take for you. Most controversial decision of the card was in the first fight of the card, not the last.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
Because the volume, the magnitude of what was on the line, jerking the curtain versus main event. But I thought this. We have plenty to talk about here. We got Jinyu Frey coming in at minus 225, which I did think was a really big number for her at this point of her career. Coming in against Vanessa Demopoulos, who That's another one where on paper the name didn't really mean anything to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's the girl that jumped in Joe Rogan's arm and kind of had that little viral moment. So that's how I remembered who she was, which good for her. That little gimmick worked. And then,
I was just gonna say that I remembered her from the same thing, and at the moment, I think I was like, man, that's kind of some fangirl stuff to be pulling. Well, now it's kind of working out as far as selling her brand. So
for sure, man. She comes in at plus 190, taking place in the women's strawweight division. Now, round one was very competitive. I chose to use the word competitive and not the word close because I didn't really have that much of a hard time scoring it, although both women were having success. I scored a 10-9 Frey, man. She was moving forward the whole time. The jab was landing. She got taken down but got up immediately, and there was like no damage or control time. And then she started to get her own damage off. Demopoulos towards the end of the round was a little starting to show some signs of some wear and tear. But yeah, man, I had round one 10-9 Frey. Like I said I was competitive. I used the word competitive, not close.
You know where I think it gets weird and murky in this fight is round one, the takedown. I think that's what makes this whole thing murky because it was like both girls had success and moments on their feet. Jinh Frey is so much more consistent than Demopoulos. But Demopoulos could eat a harder shot and land a harder shot too, I think. Not to say that she didn't have, she lacked the volume clearly. But then she did get that takedown with a minute left. I know Frey got back up with about 30 seconds to go.
No damage done in that time, no control time, no
damage
advancement. It was kind of a...
But for any judge that thought it was even on the feet, probably might have leaned that way. Fair, I didn't. Fair. I went Frey 10-9.
It was easy on the feet. You'd be wrong, but that...
Correct. If you'd seen it that way, then I can see the logic circle.
Argument there for sure. I'll hear it out. I'll allow it. All right.
Got to get me one before I fly out there.
Moving on to round two. You know what? I don't have the word close. I don't have the word competitive. I don't have any kind of controversy. I found this one easy to score as well, man. I had a 10-9 to Frey, man. I mean, she stuffed the takedowns in that round, so any argument that you had on the takedown...
Yeah, 0 takedowns and definitely won the striking battle. Like, I thought it was more clear in round two that she was the much better striker.
100%. Like I said, I don't see how you really score round two to Demopoulos. Did any judge? Yeah.
Let me see. That's what I was actually bringing up. Yes. One judge did for sure. Gave all 3 to Demopoulos.
Oh,
there was 130-27.
Oh my, that's egregious.
That's why I had a big problem with this actual fight as far as the decision. You could say I think 29-28 either way.
Oh yeah.
Once we actually, because obviously we're headed there, right? 1990, or we have it 2018, and if we're saying one judge had it 30-27 the opposite way, it's like, well, clearly there's a split here we're about to come up on. But yeah, as far as, I don't think either girl won all 3 rounds. I think it's ludicrous to say Demopoulos won all 3 rounds.
As high as I've been on Frey, I had no problem giving round 3 to Demopoulos. I mean, she you know
what? Looking at it, 2 judges gave her round 2.
That's wild to me. Like, that's wild. Like,
I thought that was the most clear round of the fight.
Round one,
or 3.
Was, I guess, the murkiest in my opinion. I thought round 2 was clearly Frey. Round 3 clearly Demopoulos. Like I said, anybody and I don't even think that's like a hot take or a controversial or like that. To me, that like I'm Captain Obvious. Like, to me, that's like the opposite of a hot take. Like, it was obvious to me.
Well, and look at how round 3 was fought. I mean, Demopoulos just grappled her and held her up on the cage and got a little bit of good damage and tight with some knees here and there, stuff like that. And started being more mitigated the damage back. Exactly right. And I think that is what clearly gives her round 3, but she couldn't do either of those things in 1 or 2.
Exactly. Round 3 looked completely different than rounds 1 and 2. And if round 3 is what a Demopoulos round looks like, you know what I'm saying? Something ain't adding up.
I would honestly, I could hear an argument for round 1 before I could hear an argument for round 2, and only one judge gave Demopoulos the first. How can this one judge give Jinu Fry the
What?
first and not the
That's
second?
wild.
Ron McCarthy. Judging, man. Open scoring. All the fighters want it.
Well, like,
It's
think
just
about
the
if there was a
UFC that
baseball
doesn't
game
want it.
where like you didn't know like the score. You wouldn't know like when to change pitchers. You wouldn't know. I mean, think about how much that affects. Or a football game, you wouldn't know if you're running the clock, passing the ball. I mean,
Yeah, think about the difference between being down by 3 and being down by 8. You know what I mean? Like there's a big difference how you're going to approach everything you do from that point if it's last 2 minutes.
Sport operates with non-open scoring. Yeah, when Chalmette. Yeah.
Boxing, I guess.
You
You know what? I have a big problem with this too, and so often we bring up on a point where we're like, "What other sport does this?" And we go boxing, and it's like the UFC built so many of the things that they operate on out of boxing, in effect, to be like relative or related to that fan base, right? Because they're already combat sports fans, so you think that's the easiest people to win, probably as far as your demographics are concerned. Yeah, target audience. Now, some of those rules that they stole and use to try and make it easier for us to understand actually just make it muddier for the sport.
Right. Like the reason why they took those boxing style rules and all that is partly because they used the same commission, and partly because you're right, they wanted to relate to the same fan base. But I feel like essentially, I could argue that UFC's fan base, at least in America, has overtaken boxing's fan base, and so it's like, but at the same time, if you completely changed everything, then there would almost be like an asterisk next to all the old ones, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if you completely took away. No, I don't think open scoring does that. But if they like completely like, you know what I'm saying, reinvented the wheel and was completely just went with a total something else, I think that would maybe change the sport maybe too much, make it something else. But I don't think open scoring does
Agreed.
that. I'm not saying open scoring would do that. Oh.
No, because it just allows the fighters to know how they need to fight according to the amount of time they have left. Because, like, these fighters don't want decisions. You know what I mean? Now, if I got up 2-0 how does that affect a guy mentally if he knows he's up 20-18 on all the cards going into the third?
Like you can say, "Oh, I'm going to keep the foot on the gas," but I mean, at the end of the day, there's a certain.
Well, it's like. So the mental game there is if I'm losing the rounds, I want to know because I need to know that I need to like go for it, right? But if I'm winning, I don't necessarily want to know.
Yeah.
Because I'd rather keep the mindset of 50-50, right? Like playing like 0-0.
Game, but the fact that you shouldn't have to like imagine or play make believe. You know what I'm saying? Like the reality.
True. Yeah. The reality is reality.
And I would like that to be based in that. So I mean, so we scored this the exact same, and we felt
29-28 Jinu Fry. I thought it was rounds 1 and 2 to her, round 3 to Demopoulos, and I didn't think it was all that hard to see.
I did not really have a hard time judging this one, scoring this one. Yeah, 2 judges gave it to Demopoulos. 1 judge, as we alluded to, gives it 30-27, which is just complete hot garbage. Like I said, if you 29-28 Demopoulos, I'm not rolling out any hills. It's a little.
Well, but I am though, right? Because the way he did it, he scored 1 to Fry and 2 to Demopoulos.
Right.
Like you gotta go.
You're right.
Like I can't stand for that because that's inconsistency in the way you're scoring round to round.
There's not an argument to be made. I strongly disagree. I'm rolling out the hill. I'm dying on the hill. This was bullshit. Guy.
Roll it out. I'm with you.
Number 1 bullshit guy judging, and.
Bro, you could see it on Jinu Fry's face when they read the 30-27 sheet. You can literally see her eyes just go.
Said that Jinu Fry like looked really, really good. Like she looked like the 2-1 favorite. Like,
yeah, yeah. I don't know if Vegas had a fix in on this and like they wanted the dog to pull away. I don't know what happened here, but I thought this was Fry's fight, and she kind of got robbed, man.
But we'll keep it pushing too, and neither one of us bet that fight. I got our parlays here, which did. Really fucking terrible by our standards. One of our worst weeks at the but I'll say, I guess trying to give us a pass, there were a lot of 50-50 fights. I don't think any of us were that bullish on our picks besides the Captain Obvious ones. This card had a lot of fights that could have gone either way, which made it very interesting. And like I said, we bet them because we like to bet, you know, and if it hit, it would be sweet. But, I mean, I don't think any of us were like, oh, lock of the week on all these picks, you know what I mean? There were plenty of coin toss wins, but this next fight was the first one that we bet, and this is the first one that you actually talked me out of it. I'm fucking glad you did, because my gut was so wrong on this one, and I won't spoil it by saying what that was. But we had Brian Kelleher plus Brian Kelleher fighting the bantamweight division plus 150, Mario Batista minus 175, and fighting the bantamweight division, as I said. And I mean, this fight wasn't even close. I mean, it was one-sided. It was a hot knife. It was all Batista.
Batista looked sharp.
It was all Batista.
He looked sharp, sharp, sharp. I mean, he looked faster on the hand speed and didn't even really use it, because then he just would enter to takedowns. He got on Kelleher grappling, pulled him down twice. I mean, got him down. Kelleher back up quick, so credit to him. But then, I mean, didn't really matter, because got taken down again. And then Batista, as he takes him down, just essentially transitions almost right to his back after he gets the half guard, waiting for full mount. Kelleher tries to roll through it, and he just waits on it and literally kind of slides in on his back.
Like I said, I had my knee jerk kind of just glancing at the card. I actually kind of liked the plus money on Kelleher. Harris, like I said, wisely talked me out of that one. I sent him my parlay, and he's like, man, the only one I really don't like is the Kelleher pick. So shout out to Harrison. Very sound advice from the betting perspective, and yeah, you obviously saw something that I didn't there, but Bautista, I said it wasn't a competitive fight, it wasn't a close fight. Bautista, and like I said, I'm spinning this one glass half full. As I alluded to with my knee-jerk bet picks, I have a level of respect for Kelleher and his skill set, and so for Bautista to just run through him, I mean, that's not a can, in my opinion. Like, that's a solid win. That's a win that does something for his career. And in the loaded bantamweight division of the logjam bantamweight division, every claw and inch you can get, and every feather you can put in your cap, and the more you stack that resume, I mean, because it's neck and neck in the logjam bantamweight.
So I couldn't agree more, and they even talked about that in this fight, about how these guys would be further up in bantamweight. Same with the Nurmagomedov fight we'll get to later, but they referenced it a few times how deep 135 is, and I actually appreciated that Bisping and Felder were the two to bring that up. Bisping's not necessarily small, but he's not necessarily the biggest either, so he can kind of or what am I saying? He can put himself in the bantamweight division shoes.
Like, these little guys, like, he doesn't get talked down on the little guys.
And Felder, obviously.
No, for sure, man. And I mean, we love bantamweights. We jokingly said the bantamweight breakdown, and honestly, I don't know. It's kind of weird that they took this long to mention. It seems like something you'd want to market. Exactly.
Yeah, it only builds your champions.
The whole division and puts more heat.
And that division is loaded with former champs too. I mean, especially if you look at like other like promotions that guys have come in from and have been champions in that other pro leagues, like they have, I think, like 7 champs.
Yeah, it's wild.
Bantamweight still active.
Loaded. I love bantamweights. Mario Batista, like I said, I won't sleep on him again, man. He looked damn good, and the fact that he did it with the wrestling, I mean, with the submission, with the grappling, I mean, all of it, and his ability to chain those two things together, right? Like, he was not laying and praying, just immediately like, turning wrestling into jiu-jitsu, which a lot of people struggle with that transition. You know what I'm saying? Like, wrestling is the art of getting it to the ground. For the most part, jiu-jitsu is once you get down there. And so many people have one but not the other, or have both in a vacuum but struggle to, like, link. Yeah, for
Put them together. See Rodolfo Vieira.
Sure. But I mean, I guess that we can keep it pushing. I mean, Bautista minus 175, and let me see.
I would just say one future note based off that: O'Malley's going to look really sharp in his fight this coming weekend. Because that's his training partner, is Mario Batista.
I didn't realize that.
That's the reason I liked him against Kelleher, is because Kelleher has talked a lot about O'Malley and tried to call him out before, and O'Malley's always shucked him off and been like, man, that guy's garbage. Like, we have other guys in this camp that are already better that I train with. Well, I'm sure they took that very personally in the camp as far as whenever he was training with them, and I'm sure O'Malley actually tried to dedicate his like session or help he gave to Batista. He probably seriously dedicated that time with more personal weight to himself as well.
I mean, on essentially the daily with Sean O'Malley, I mean, Boom Kelleher is kind of an easy matchup. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's kind of how I felt coming into this, man. That's why I like Batista so much. I was like, his camp has got to be
cool,
so
man.
much harder than
That's some good
Kelleher's.
insight for sure. They said you saved my ass because I followed you along with that one on one of my parlays, and so far that was the first fight we started with parlay 1-0.
1-0, baby. We like to start hot.
Next fight, we got Cody Durden. We got some flyweights, men's flyweights. We got Cody Durden minus 105, fighting JP Buys minus 115 in the flyweight division, as I alluded to. And, I mean, that's essentially a coin toss. So we did bet this one as well. This is where the streak ends at 1. We both like Buys, and that's not really giving anything away because this fight only lasted 1 minute and 8 seconds, so there really wasn't, not too much bushes to beat around here.
Man, I bought into desperation. Did not pay off.
Mine wasn't even desperation. It was just like...
No, I meant his, because Buys is on a losing streak, and he needed this win bad.
When you just look at the Tapology pages, the Sherdog pages, I don't know, the MMA math, I don't know, which obviously is not 100%, but the MMA math, I thought leaned to Buys. Durden.
I thought Buys had a better skill set. I thought he was sharper in the same areas and then could cover more ground in other areas.
I think I did have a slight lack of respect for Durden's skill set. I viewed him as pretty basic, and I thought Buys maybe a little better athlete. Anyway, listen, this fight lasted 1 minute and 8 seconds. Durden dropped him with the right hand and then ground and pounded.
Dropped him twice.
I'll actually say it was a late stoppage. You may think it's hard to –
Yes. Mark Smith gave JP Buys too many
Buys,
opportunities.
I was kind of stoked, but just objectively looking at it, it was
Mark Smith was letting dudes get beat up last night.
The fight only lasted 1 minute and 8 seconds. How was it a late stoppage? It could have been stopped at 50 seconds, 45 seconds? I mean, yeah. It went
45 probably, yeah. Like when he rocked him again and he got shot in and just ate like 3 hammer fists. I was probably like, all right.
This tank literally 4 out of 5 parlays, all of my parlays, all but one of yours. We were pretty bullish on Buys. I guess that's a lesson learned. The future of don't put a coin toss on 4 different parlays,
especially in a coin toss. Yeah,
learned
that's a good point.
From a betting strategy perspective, at least that's probably what I'm going to take out of this one more than any X's and O's. Now as far as flyweight goes, Durden had an interesting call out, and his name is slipping my mind. The Latino flyweight that we just saw fight like 2 weeks ago, who wore the pride shorts and people. Jeff Molina. He called out Jeff Molina, and I actually like that because once again, the amount of unranked flyweights whose names mean anything to me as a fan is a very short list. To get 2 of those guys together, who's in my recent memory, whose names I know, who are both kind of at similar stages in the division.
Oh, I like Jeff Molina. I think that's a tough fight as well
for Durden. But I think that's a good look that he called for it. And you know what I'm saying? Kind of like how Kevin Holland called out Sean Brady.
That's how I feel. Yeah,
the one guy you think you would want to duck, you call him out. Us fans, we're gonna eat that up. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I'm just shoveling coal in the Durden wagon, but I'm saying I do have more respect for him than I did fucking 48 hours ago. Clearly, as a guy who bet against him, and then I don't know. I think that flyweight is such a kind of anomaly, weird division where a lot of the conventional MMA thinking I don't want to say goes out the window because like a lot of the stereotypes you think, oh, not a lot of power. Well, we have a first round finish here. So it's really hard, I think, in my opinion, to kind of like guesstimate what men's flyweight fights are going to look like. You know what I'm saying?
They're for me usually they're the worst to bet, and my favorite bet on a men's flyweight fight is goes the distance, which obviously would not be the case here. But I'm saying that's usually a better bet than even trying to pick a winner if it's a close fight.
So like I said, I don't feel too bad that we fucking bricked this one Russell Westbrook style because fucking you know what I'm saying? Like I think a lot of people probably bricked this one, and like I said, a lot of people thought it probably was going to be a decision. It was a first round finish. How many people out there got Durden by first round knockout? That's a very small number. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel too bad. But
oh yeah, I started shooting bricks at back iron.
Yeah, it was a next stretch. The book for you boys, man. But like I said, it's not like we was really sticking our fucking chest out on these picks. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of.
Hey, we're still
I mean, I
net
think
positive
we
on
both
them.
finished exactly like 500, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, oh yeah,
Oh, I meant just money too from the one parlay that did hit.
oh
Like we
for
definitely
sure,
are
man.
still positive
For
money
sure, man. It's
from the
definitely that.
casino
And like I said, I mean, overall, I mean, there's a lot of people that wish they could pick 50% of fights right. But hey, man, let's keep it pushing him.
for
And
sure.
like, let's be honest, if this sport was predictable, we wouldn't love it as much as we do. You know what I'm saying? As much as we love to sound like smart guys. So you know what I mean? But next up, we got
No
Raulian
doubt, though.
Paiva plus 135 fighting Sergey Morozov minus 155 in the bantamweight division. This was a classic example. I really like Paiva's strength of schedule. I thought he's fighting harder guys than Morozov. That was
Me too. I felt like this was coming down for Paiva and Morozov coming up. And they're trying to see if Paiva belonged to be where
now,
he was at.
granted, we did have a bad taste in our mouth, really, from Paiva. The last time we saw him, he got absolutely dog walked by O'Malley. But I think we both have enough respect for O'Malley that we think he dog walk a lot of these dudes. So it's like that's
how I felt about it precisely. Is like that's exactly it, right. Like it was one of those things of like, well, we've seen Morozov be good, and we've also seen him lose to pretty talented dudes. But then we've also seen Paiva be really good and lose to extremely talented dudes. So it's like, I guess I hope Paiva in a higher light.
That's a little bit of name value. He's a mediocre name.
Yeah. And I think at plus money, though, too. I think that was super enticing.
This is the parlay juicer right here.
And we got it like it opened at him, I think, like plus 100 or plus 105. So damn near a coin flip because it was minus 110 from Morozov at open. So us to get it at 130.
I thought it was going to juice our
like
parlay
great value.
Like Gregory Rodriguez. And but
well, Jesus. Well, let's get into it because I was juiced for the first 45 seconds.
Banger, man. Paiva came out looking good. I gave round one to Paiva, man. I thought the pressure, the damage, and the takedown defense, like all kind of leaned in his favor. I don't know. Did you see it differently?
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. He defended every single takedown attempt in the first round. He was cracking Morozov. Had him, I think, hurt at one point, but Morozov recovered really well.
No doubt. Paiva, like I said, I was stoked. I mean, granted, our parlay was already busted, but even on the parlays to that bust, I still follow along. Exactly.
I still want to see him hit 3 out of 4. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so I was definitely, I was feeling good about Paiva after one, man. I mean, it was competitive. Morozov definitely had his moments. He landed shots. It wasn't like it was all Paiva, but I was feeling good about Paiva after one. Now, round two, Morozov was really able to start to get his wrestling going, get some takedowns. That double leg was fucking great.
Yeah, crisp. Like just duck the punch and just
perfect. Like it doesn't almost textbook. Like doesn't necessarily get much better than that double leg as far as like a time.
Yeah, so nice that Felder was like, "You want to make takedowns easy?
Seriously,
time your double leg like that."
And I was like, Paiva was starting to fade a little bit. Morozov got in the words of Felder, the easiest takedown ever. And so it was like a real just ships passing in the night, swinging momentum. It was the graph starts to look differently from that moment on.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I thought Morozov looked really strong on top. Not to say Paiva wasn't doing some good defensive maneuvers, right? But you could see his will was kind of starting to break as far as Morozov staying on top, not being able to be swept or even advancing his position.
And
I think it was hurting Paiva mentally.
Didn't do a lot of striking from the top, but the one elbow that got through was like it cut him. So he was like 1-1.
Cut him like on his nose too, like where it was going into his eye. It was a super dangerous cut if you're on your back.
Like I said, Morozov not super active, but like quality, not quantity for sure from the damage perspective. And then so we have it tied up going into the third, which feeling pretty good. Can still, I don't want to say feeling pretty good. It was looking like Morozov was taking like the lead here, and like there had been a shift in momentum, and that's essentially what happened.
Well, and I thought, like, man, if Paiva can just defend the takedowns again this round and stay on his feet, he can win the fight. Well, as it happens, he does stay on his feet pretty much for the whole round. But
Yeah, with the
Morozov
power
won the
shots,
striking
right? Because
battle.
Pipe is not really much of a power striker, more of a clean technique kind of guy. And I mean, it was a competitive round. I thought round 3 was more competitive than round 2 was. And then Piper got the late takedown at the end of the round. Doesn't really do much with it. No damage, no sub attempts, no really anything at all. And so I gave round 3 to Morozov. But like I said, I thought Piper looked better in 3 than he did in 2.
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, just simply being on the feet was Paiva's best place. Whenever he was on the ground,
man.
it was all Morozov. So with that, yeah, 29-28, it was pretty clear. That one I was like, okay, this parlay is in the water. It's dead in the water.
For sure. It was, it was a brutal night at the book, but another one, man. Plus 135 dog. Like, we're not crazy for that's a good parlay juicer. I still don't feel that bad about the pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, given the information we have.
Right. So to keep it pushing though, I feel like the first 2 were just bricks, right? Just back iron bricks.
Yeah.
This one was an air ball.
And I'm going to throw you under the bus here. This is one I definitely.
This is a Harrison
special. I didn't
feel
too strongly about this one coming into it.
I should have remembered TJ Brown's coach is James Krause, and I hate James Krause, so I would have they instantly taken him off.
Like, I know that this is gonna I'm saying this tongue in cheek. Like, obviously, I don't have a problem with white people. They just all have that dirty white boy energy. You know what I'm saying? That you know what I'm saying? That, I bet none of their houses.
It sucks.
Good. I don't know, that dirty white boy,
facts.
Fucking smells like dip and Keystone cans, I don't know, man. I just.
Well, Bryce Mitchell's one of those guys too, so it's that fits the bill.
I don't know, something about just that whole camp and just they all have a similar type of energy. That's not my favorite kind of energy, and you're right. There's something.
And I just really don't like James Krause as well as a fighter.
All of these Chinese fighters are impossible to know what they're going to look like. All of these Chinese fighters are so inconsistent. And I say that, obviously that's a wide umbrella to cast, but maybe with the exception of Wei Li, she's the only one that shows up consistently. Think about it. Li Jingliang, there's fights where he looks like a fucking next up, and then there's fights where he gets ragdolled. I mean, every single of these Chinese fighters that they all have bonuses. Arichi.
No, yeah, Arichi
the list goes on, right? There's a few more, and it's we're
gonna see with Mahashate.
But for the most part, all these Chinese fighters, they all have bonuses under their record, and then they all have getting finished or just losing 30-27. It's impossible to know if and when these Chinese fighters are gonna show up. And I mean, I guess it makes a lot of sense. Think about their logistics, getting from Beijing to Vegas. I mean, I'm sure jet lag's a factor. I'm sure there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, Wei Li spoke on that before she fought Joanna. She was saying, going to Singapore is great for me. It's the same climate as what I live in China. And she was the time zones are a couple hours off. It's a short flight. It's just way better for me, she was I got here and I feel refreshed. I don't have to reset my sleep schedule. I can just go train and feel good. And that has to be a physical effect too.
That would be every USA fighter's excuse if they lost. You know what I'm saying? You never really hear that from the Chinese fighters. So credit to them for that. They're not excuse makers. And
absolutely.
I say that Nurmagomedov
but yeah,
is
TJ,
one of these Uyghurs that be getting fucking genocided and shit, because he's a Muslim, but he's from China. Isn't that the people that be disappearing and shit over there? I bet this fool's been through some shit.
Well, he's plus 175 in this fight, so he's going through some shit again, according to the odds. But yeah, Shylon Nerdembike and then TJ Brown minus 205.
Big featherweights.
I thought, I can't believe they're featherweights. They look like damn near welterweights in their body style wise, and they're loaded up with muscle. I was wow. I thought really high energy first round. Both guys working hard. I just thought Nerdembike was landing the better shots, honestly, on the feet.
You could sum it up as damage. Like I said, the damage was heavily in the favor of Nerdembike, and he got a takedown as well. Now, I got to say, that scramble in round 1 was one of the better scrambles I've ever seen. It was It was
Oh, it was
nuts.
so
It was
good.
nuts. Anybody that thinks
So
grappling's
good.
quote unquote boring, definitely checked out that round one scramble. Yeah, no, it was crazy. Like Brown ended the round with that Kimura attempt. Thanks, buddy. And yeah, so round one, Norden Beckett, but Brown, made it competitive. Had some moments, won some positions, but just the damage was overwhelmingly in the favor of Norden Beckett in round one. Made it easy to score. Now round two, I
Absolutely.
thought round two was
How'd you see
actually the
round two?
murky one, the closer round of Now I gave it. Oh yeah,
I thought it
definitely
was
Merc
Merc
City.
City.
I gave it to Brown. He got that reversal and took the back, had the control time. But then Norden Beckett kind of flipped the script, got his own reversal, and ended the round on top. I mean, Brown spent more of the round on top. If you want to go like numbers, control time, I think Brown had more. I thought he maybe did a little more with it by taking the back. Neither guy. No,
I don't know if he
no, you're
necessarily did
right.
more
You're right.
damage, though,
You're
you
right.
know? That's why I got so down in the weeds on this fight or on this round, man, was do I give it to Brown because he was in more threatening positions and controlled more, or do I give it to Nordembeke because he was able to do more damage and reverse the position and get
why don't you ask
a good amount of control
Aljamain
time?
snoozing? I mean, having your back and win you a belt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, which is silly because whenever Rogan asked him how do you score fights,
I know,
predominantly
bro.
Aljamain was like damage.
Oh my
It's
god,
like we
that
didn't do
fucking
anything.
grinded my gears when he said that. I was like, "What the fuck did you just say?" Like, Mister No Damage, but you
Yeah, I
never
was like,
won a
bro, you
fight.
have to
I
be
mean,
in.
what the fuck?
Yeah, he has to be in
Like,
camp
was he
control. There's no
trolling?
way.
He
He
didn't
can't be
sound
in
like he
camp
was trolling, but
damage.
he almost had to be.
I,
He almost had to be. Like, that was like, yeah. I mean, that's like Paulo Costa saying you win a fight by control time. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah.
yeah.
So, applied to this fight, like we're saying,
I don't have a
I actually
problem
scored
with
it
that.
10
I'm
9
not
Nurden
dying on any
Becke.
heels. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, it was actually you were right. Yeah.
Well, crazy because all three judges
Okay,
scored it
that's
10 9
interesting.
Brown.
That's interesting. So I mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but I still don't think it was like outlandish on your part. No,
Yeah, and I even wrote at the very end of my notes, I could see an argument for him taking the
no,
second,
no.
referring to
Round
Brown.
three,
So,
yeah, it was
I
close.
admitted that it was
Round
that
three,
close.
pretty close as well. I think it's less close than round two, but still pretty competitive, pretty close. Not an ass whooping. Now, Nurden Becke really kind of takes a more wrestling heavy approach because in round one, it was more damage, big bombs. Round three, he really switched to more of a control wrestling, type approach, and it worked.
I thought he fought a really smart third round, especially considering that Krause and Brown's corner had told him, like, hey, you're down 2 rounds. And it's like, well, actually, it's 1-1. And maybe if they hadn't told him that, he fights differently and wins this fight. I hate that camp. It's
Yeah,
a terrible
annoying
camp.
for sure.
But to tell him to go for a finish when every judge had it
And I
19-19 is
also feel
like,
like,
sounds
I'm sorry,
stupid.
just going to shit on the Kraus camp a little more. I feel like they get like unnecessary love. Like every time the announcer's like, "Oh, this is one of the best camps in America," and like all their fighters are super mid. They're super mid.
They always
right? Like,
lose.
they're like, yeah, no, I mean, like, isn't like Joaquin Buckley like one of the best guys in the whole camp? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what? Like, and they're just like, and then you hear the commentators.
Yeah.
Those guys know what they're talking about. So I mean, who am I to disagree with a guy like Felder? But they always like shine their wheels and like, oh, great camp out of Kansas. Like, no, maybe for the region, probably the best gym in Kansas. I don't know what that's saying, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, for maybe mid-America, it's a great gym, but, like, there's some great ones down in
for
Florida
sure,
and out in
brother. I feel the same
California.
exact way. But, yeah, all three judges scored it 29-28, unanimous decision for Norden Becke. That's how I scored it. I mean,
I had it 30-27, but I mean, I'm not dying on a hill for 29-28, and I think it was a very clear win for Nurden
nobody's
Becke.
mad. And yeah, I mean, Vegas disagreed with it. We disagree. I mean, as far as prediction goes, Vegas thought TJ Brown was going to win. We rode with TJ Brown on the parlay. Another one that, and it was closer now that we dive into it. In memory, it's like, oh yeah, Norden Becke whooped his ass. But actually, we're diving into it a little more. It's a pretty competitive fight, and
yeah, I mean, Brown put up a good fight. It
exactly.
wasn't like he just got crushed. but at the same time, it
And
was
then it's
like I
also, like I
know who
said, it's
won this
hard for
fight.
me to get pumped on these Chinese fighters, man, because like I've seen this story before. You look like a world beater one week and then get dominated the next. It's such a roller coaster. I mean, I guess I don't know. There's probably a lot of factors that go into that, like we said, but the Chinese fighters are so inconsistent.
You know what? You know what I just thought of? That I just was reminded of at the post-fight interview for Nerd and Becke, and it happened all night long. Bisping's got to quit saying something to guys and putting his hand out because they keep trying to shake his hand mid-interview, which they're foreign and don't know what he's saying, so they just think he's saying words and putting
Yeah,
his
they're
hand up
probably
to shake it.
stoked. Yeah, like
And you see him keep like reaching.
Stuck his hand out to me, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
try to shake it. Yeah,
yeah, like they all want to shake his hand. Yeah, exactly. So like,
yeah. No,
yeah,
he's
he's
not
got
the
to chill
best
with
in
that.
octagon guy.
It was
Didn't
it was so funny
I like
last
when
night. It
they've
happened like
let
4 different
Felder go in
times.
there a couple times. He usually does a pretty good job. I like when Felder does it. I
Yeah,
think Felder's better than Bisping
great
at the
job.
job. Now, Bisping has the love, has the respect, has the resume. You know, I like Bisping too, but I think Felder's better on the mic than Bisping.
No, yeah, I agree. I definitely
No,
agree with that.
I'm going
Definitely
to
agree
be
with
the
that.
most selfish podcast partner in all time. Threw you under the bus on the last one. Going to puff my chest out on this next one. We got Carlos Olberg fighting Stefan Nchukwi in the light heavyweight division. And this is one that I wanted on my parlay. I felt pretty good about it doing the research. Definitely doing some MMA math, which has bit me in the ass plenty of times, but this is one where it kind of did it. And yeah, I liked Olberg a lot coming into this one. I got Olberg at plus 105, so it was essentially a coin flip. I mean, because a guy like Nchukwi can end the fight at any given moment, so you can't be too bullish. But I've also seen that story before where, like, if your only chance of winning is landing a big right hand, like, I kind of am going to favor the other guy unless your name's Ngannou. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, no.
yeah, no,
Big
exactly.
Gunner
Maybe
rule.
or Derek Lewis, perhaps. But yeah, which Nchukwi is
Yeah.
nowhere near that level. And yeah, I view Nchukwi as a pretty flawed fighter. And now Olberg, young, exciting prospect, man. I mean, there's a lot of unknown, which is why I think the money line was so close. But I mean, you look at the measurables, you look at the camp, you look at the record, everything except for experience. This guy got a lot going for him. That's what made me like it.
Yeah,
And the
no
common
doubt.
opponent / similar opponent of Fabio Charant. I think it was like Olberg had beat Charant. I think they had both beaten Charant, but Charant and Nchukwi are like the same guy essentially. So like that made me feel really, really good. And I think it was just 1 or 2 fights ago. She just fought a guy like this. He had a lot of success against that similar body type and style. There was a lot of reasons why I liked Olberg coming into this one. Like I said, not trying to puff out my chest, just laying out a reason why I felt that way.
Well, it turns out to be a great read because in the very first exchange that they had, Olberg rocks him with that short hook and then just pounces on him and closed the show. I mean, what this fight in minute 15. Not the fastest finish of the night, but I mean, as far as like the amount of engagement there was that led to it, let me see how many total punches were landed by Nchukwi.
Yeah.
3 punches he
Like I
landed.
said, I mean, even as a guy who's puffing out his chest and shining his own wheels, like I didn't see a first round, like just you know what I'm saying. I didn't see a shutout, but yeah, Olberg.
Oh, my bad. No punches.
Wow,
He landed 3
wow.
leg kicks.
No, dude,
No
Oberg's an
punches.
interesting prospect, man. Especially in the light heavyweight division. We talked about now. It's starting to fill out a little bit, but still a thinner division, and definitely room for ascension there. He's a young guy. I mean, this is only his 8th pro fight. I think he's a city kickboxing guy, if I'm not mistaken. So top of the
Yeah,
line
he
city
is.
camp,
Yeah,
and he's a really tall guy. He's what 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". I mean, he's another big long striker out of city
something like
kickboxing.
that.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think I'm gonna I'm shoveling some coal. I mean, I guess I'll pump the brakes a little bit because, like I said, I have a limited amount of respect for Nchukwi's skill set, and I saw it going this way. Now Vegas didn't. On paper, like I said, I think it's a pretty good win for him. I don't know. Do you feel better about Olberg? Are you hyped on Olberg? I think he's a pretty goddamn interesting prospect. That might be about as much as I put on it, though.
almost exactly where I'm at. I like him a lot, but I still need to see him a couple more times look really good before I start shoveling coal. I think he looked really good, but I haven't seen him
and then
consistently look that good. So I'd like to see if that was kind of like Nchukwi being off or being a bad matchup.
Yeah.
Or having a bad matchup, rather. Or is it Olberg getting better and just
I think,
sharpening his skill set?
especially, like I said, with the pedigree of the gym. I mean, a good-looking dude, marketable guy, tall guy, athletic guy. I could see him getting a little bit of a push. I don't think he's that far off from a top 15 opponent. I mean, especially as a light heavyweight's pretty thin. Exactly.
Especially not in 205.
Exactly.
It's kind of a dying division.
I think he could be the juice. I could see the promotion kind of getting behind him. But
because, I mean, who's the back of light heavy right now? It's Dustin Jacoby, Jimmy Crute, and Johnny Walker.
I like him against any of those guys, if we're being honest.
I like it. I would love to see him, honestly fight Dustin Jacoby next.
Any of them. Yeah, Walker's a pretty big name, but I honestly, like the way Walker be getting knocked out, I mean, I can't.
Yeah, and the way he's looked recently, like,
and I'm not that
I don't
high
have really
on
much
Crute
stock in him at
right
all.
now. I mean, all these guys are good, and all these guys are better than Stephon and Nchukwi. So I mean, he said we got to pump the brakes a little bit, but I have no problem with him getting that level of matchup soon. But yeah, man, that wraps up the prelims, man. It was a fun prelims. Not from a betting perspective, but from a watchability and, like I said, future prospect. I said I'm high on Olberg coming out of this one. And I'm high on Bautista coming out of this one, and I'm higher on Durden. No.
Yeah, me too. And as far as the Durden thing goes, too, as a final note, it was it kind of put in perspective for me, how good is Muhammad Makayev going to be?
Yeah, I think Makayev is starting.
Because that was Durden's last opponent.
Badly. Yeah, walk through him.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
Badly.
Makayev. Yeah.
So that's a name that I got put on notice again of just by my stock in Durden going up so much. So
ages well for Makayev, 100%. But yeah, man, short.
Exactly.
And be right back for the main card. Looking forward to it, brother.
Yes, sir.